Hare Krishna. Am I audible and visible? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you are audible.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Hare Krishna. Is the screen fully visible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो 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 विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So in fact we just touched upon 15.6, this one, and then we completed here in fact up to this where we're talking about it tadhamam paramam mama, and na tadbhasati suryo no sasanko na pavakah yat gatva na nivartante tadhamam paramam mama. The abode of mind is not illuminated by the sun or moon nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. That is tadhama paramam mama. And yat gatva. Yat gatva means by going there, na nivardante. They never come back. That dhama, tad dhama paramam mama, my supreme abode. Krishna is saying. So we discuss in detail that that doesn't require na sashanko na surya uho. That is also there. So moon is the illumination by moon is not required. Illumination of sun is not required. Stars are not required. Electricity is not required because his body, his spiritual body, is self illuminated, and that's the effulgence, and that is called Brahma Jyotir. That's what we just I mean a little bit of recap of what we discussed last is that this verse describes the spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, known as Krishna. And in the spiritual square, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity because all the planets are self luminous. We have only one planet in the universe, the sun, which is self luminous. I mean, as we know, there may be other universes where there would be suns, but in our planetary system, in our galaxy, there's only one sun, and but all the planets in the spiritual self-luminous. This shining effulgence is called Brahma Jyotir, and this is the destination, and this is what the main objective of the Brahmavadis and also the Mayavadis, even the demons who primarily go for the Sayuja Mukti. So they don't want they don't want the Sevananda, they want the Brahmananda, so they go there, but it is not permanent. Ultimately, the punya becomes less, and they again come back to this earthly planet, where we repeatedly say that it has got repeated Janma Mrityu Jara and Vyadhi, and so many lakhs of spaces. Not only 84 lakhs, but it can be 84 lakhs into so many multiples because we do not know by what time we can be in a position to go to the platform of liberation, which requires so many things. Although Krishna has said and given so many beautiful formulas everywhere. For example, one formula he has given is Janma karma cha me divyam. Whoever knows me, that my pastimes, my birth, and my disappearance and appearance are divine, then he will never again come to this world. Just by knowing it. Later on, we'll also come across some of the part of the knowledge. What is knowledge? So that also we will come back. Sarvai Vedaischa Sarvaihi Ahame Vedyaha, that also to cover. So actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golaka, Vrindavana. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. The major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golaka, Vrindavana. So one should not confused. Of course, when we saw the Goloka chart, then we can see that Bhurloko is there and there are 14 planetary system. Then so there are uh, different lokas, which the when we're talking about the inverted tree, then at the top of the tree, that is at the basically top means inverted tree, top is the root. So root is the Brahma Loka is there, and beyond that it is separated by desire, and beyond that is Vaikuntha and Golaka, of course. Vaikuntha is not Goloka. Vaikuntha, and what is Vaikuntha? Where there is no Kuntha. There is no, what is Kuntha? Kuntha is, there is no anxiety. So the major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets called Vaikuntha, chief of which is Goloka Vrindavana. Chief of the Vaikunthas is Goloka Vrindavan. That's what is that. So Goloka is the ultimate where all the leelas that we read, we study, we read through Bhagavatam, we read in Krishna book, we read through the various texts of Prabhupada and in the Gurus and the Parampara by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Rupa Goswami, by so many exalted teachers and gurus in our Parampara. Whatever they mention in about Goloka is that every Leela that we see and read and study, like let's say in the entire Gopa Leela that we are talking about, let's say Putna Leela, or we are talking about let's say the Nalakubara, or let's say we are talking about any other thing like the Kaliya Dalana. So many such things, anything that you think about. And the Gopalila, particularly when they go to the Govardhan Hill, they play. Krishna becomes a friend. That's an absolutely Sakhya Bhava. That's absolute Sakhya Bhava in case of the Gopa. We just, I think, discussed this that in Gopa, in the Brindavana, in fact, that's where the absolute Sakhya Bhava is there. Whereas in case of Arjuna, it is a mixed Sakhya Bhava, means it has got a reverence because he's saying Param Brahma, Param Dhavam, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. He is accepting. So there is a reverence and also there is friendship or Sakhya Bhava. In Vrindavan, it is perfect Sakhya Bhava. That's what Krishna likes. But then he is always infallible. And what is that called? Achyuta. So why is called infallible? Why is called infallible? Because it doesn't fall from his position. How? It is not the literally fall. I mean, it's not falling from somewhere. It is something like that that if he becomes a chariot driver, doesn't mean that he's still not the supreme personality of Godhead. He still remains as the supreme personality of Godhead, even if he becomes the driver. For example, in our daily lives also, we become the driver of the car sometimes when we take our friends. So even a chief justice can have some friend and who can go with his car to drive. Doesn't mean that he has fallen down from the position of chief justice. So similarly, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, never falls down from his position, whichever form, whichever pastimes, whichever way he comes, he appears, he doesn't fall down. As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. As soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false, perverted tree of the material world by Sangha Sastrena, we just discussed Asanga Sastrena, that is the X of detachment. He becomes liberated with no chance of his coming back. Yat gatva na nivartante tat dhamam paramam mama. And in the conditional life, what happens? The living entity tends to lord over the material world. Like Lord will lord over, that's fine and that's perfect because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the Lord, so he will lord over. The moment living entity wants to lord over because he is just a part and parcel of Krishna, it is like this a small, let's say, droplet of an ocean. There is no difference between the saline quality of the droplet of the water and the ocean. There is no difference. However, in the quantity, there's a large and huge difference, and that's how it is. So that is the difference between Jivatma and the Paramatma. There's a difference between the soul and the super soul. That's the difference between we and Krishna. So on entering the spiritual kingdom after liberation, one becomes what? So this one becomes an it's what it is. One becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord, enjoying eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. Sat Chit Ananda that we talked about. Sat is basically the truth or eternal, eternity. Chit is the knowledge because he becomes knowledgeable. And what is knowledge? Vedai Sarvesya Aham Vidya. To know Krishna is the knowledge. He knows, so therefore he is in the devotional service. And then he is also having all the Ananda or the bliss. So one should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world. Otherwise, he will be called what? He will be called Mudha. For one too much attached to this material world, detachment becomes difficult. One only Krishna consciousness and association with Krishna consciousness devotees can help him. And this is last line is very very important because sorry, I just missed it. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Just 1 minute. Yeah, so we are in text 15. Sarvasachaham Sannivishta is the text 15. And before that, we had all this. Yeah, this one also, I think I've just skipped. One moment. Yeah, here we were. So, so one should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world. So, last line we said that last line is very important because without the association of Krishna conscious devotees, it is not possible to go to the next level. And we had many examples in the Shastra. And the best example is Narada, and we know the story. And what is the example? Just as saffron attire is not sufficient, he must become attached to the Lord in devotion. So, in fact, in chapter 5, we discuss about this that what is important, whether renunciation is important, more it is better, or devotional service is better. So, Paramam Mama means every nook and corner belongs to the Supreme Lord. The spiritual world is Paramam, full of six opulences. And what are the six opulences? In fact, Parasara Muni has given this definition of six opulences. The spiritual world, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra surya bhati, na chandra tarakam. And what are the six opulences of Bhagavan? Hare Krishna. Anyone remembers? Anyone remembers? Who are the six opulences? So basically Bhaga and Ban. So Bhagavan is having the Bhaga, and Bhaga means there are six opulences. Aishwaryam is the first one. That is richness. So knowledge, then richness, fame, then strength, then non-attachment, right? And beauty. So, so just one moment. I think we have to mute. If we can mute. Uh, Mataji, Punilela Mataji, can we meet? Can you mute Nandita Mataji? Hare Krishna. Can you
Okay,
mute?
Prabhuji, you have
okay,
not
okay.
made me the co-host. Kindly
Okay,
you mute,
okay,
Prabhuji.
okay, okay. I have not made you. Now I cannot do now at this point.
I have no idea, Prabhuji. You can
Oh,
mute it, Prabhuji.
okay, let me see how can I do it. Uh, okay, here also I can. Acha, here I can do also, na? Yeah, make co-host. Okay, sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, it is muted. Hare Krishna. Great. Okay. Right. So those are the six opulences of Krishna, and all these opulences you will find there. So next is about the characteristics of the abode. So characteristics of the abode are Tadhamam Paramam Mama. That abode is not illuminated by sun, moon, fire, or electricity. Once attained, one never returns to the material world. That is the characteristic of Lord's supreme abode. We can see here, we can see the same Leela is going on in Golaka. There are cows, he's playing flute, there will be a lot of servants, so many devotional service will be going on. There will be, milking of the cows, everything will go on there. And it is one of the very, very important verse. And I would urge everyone to remember this because this is the most beautiful one as well. So, yeah. मामेवांशो जीवो लोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः षष्ठानि इन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति Mamavancho Jiva Loke. Here, in fact, this is the verse where if anyone asks, like to the Mayavadis, and this is the answer. This is the answer to the Mayavadis because Mayavadis says that one can merge with the Lord, which is just not possible because we are part and parcel of the Lord. We are not equal to Lord. So the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental part. Mam eva amsho. Mamaiva anshoho. So mamai be amshoho. That is mama eva anshaha. That is my part and partial. And what is part? A part cannot be same as whole. Therefore, the whole we read in Ishopanishad. We read what is that verse? That whole, in fact, represents the Paramatma, I mean our Krishna. That is, anyone remembers? Purnamadaha, Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vashishyate. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts due to conditioned life. They are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So, what are the five senses? So, eyes, so that is then ears, then nose, then mouth, then touch. So these are the uh, five senses and the mind. This verse gives the identity of the living being. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. So when we say he is eternally fragmented, means he remains, the Jivatma remains as Jivatma, Paramatma remains as Paramatma eternally. This is to be understood. And it is clearly said, Sanatanaha. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. And which are the primary expansions? The primary expansions are, first expansion is the Karana Dakshaya Vishnu, where you have billions and billions of bubbles come out from uh, his exhalation. And when he inhales, all the universes go into his belly. Then next expansion is your Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, right? And then next is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. There are also other expansions like Sankarsana. All that will learn in the high levels. The Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion, and the living entities are the separated expansion. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Narsimha Deva, Vishnu Murti, and all the predominant deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual entities of the Godhead are always present. The separated expansion of living entities have their identities. As fragmental parts and parcels of Supreme Lord, the living entities have fragmental portion of his qualities, which just we discussed. We'll have the living entities, we have the same quality of Krishna, like we are eternal. So we will be the Sat Chit Ananda. These three things we also have. Although we become conditioned so that because of the identification with the material nature, living entity the, gets the influence under the three modes, Sattva, Raja, and Tama, and thereby the quality, although it has, but the quality cannot manifest. By use of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul dominated by the modes, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. And what is the meaning of proper use of independence? We have some, we are not 100% free. However, there is a minute freedom which is given because karmanaha gahana gati, and whenever you say karmana gahana gati would mean that the karma, the 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 result of the karma is very difficult to understand. Therefore, Krishna says that karmanya badhikaraste ma phalesu kadachana. Why he's saying here? It is to be understood that why he's saying like this, that your right or our right is only on the work, but I do not have any right on the result. It only means what? It only means that we do not have complete independence. Otherwise, every time we do something, we must get the result. That's called independence. However, if we are not getting the results, even if we are pushing ourselves, and there are a lot of endeavors, but some people are getting results, some people are not getting results based on what has been, all these three that we discussed. So there are three forms in which the effect of karma remains. And what are the three forms? So one is prarabdha, one is aprarabdha, and other is kuta, and fourth is bija. So not three, I would say four. So in this four forms it remains, and based on that, which position today that particular karma has would depend on what the result that I'm getting today. If it is fructifying today, then in the prarabdha form it has. Then of course, if there are negative karmas or vikarmas, etc., then it will fructify today. But if it is at aprarabdha stage, then it may not fructify today. So based on that, we are not independent. However, if we are using our minute independence for Krishna consciousness, because that is up to us. So either we surrender to Maya or we surrender to Krishna. Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. Mam ekam sharanam braja. So if you surrender to Krishna, that is where we get the complete independence. Forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. What does it mean? It means that in either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from the material condition and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. The living entities, the living entities, not only human beings, means any of the entities. There are 84 lakhs of species, whether it is an ant or an insect or a plant. The living entities, not only human beings, even the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world like Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Vishnu are all parts and parcel of Supreme Lord. So some are having um, some enjoying more because they are in the higher planets, but they're not equal to. So in fact, we have read this, right? We have read this in before also that he is the controller. So what is the peace formula? In the peace formula also, we read that he is the controller. So they are all eternal, not temporary manifestation. The word karshati, the struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. We saw the figure, not the picture. Unless we cut that with sanga sastrena, then the shackle is not seen. Like it's similar to saying that Sutra Manigana Eva, entire cosmos, the entire creation is tied and is there, is existing because it is bound by the invisible thread, Sutra Manigana Eva by Krishna. The moment the thread is broken, everything will just fall apart. In a similar way, he is bound by the false ego, and the mind is the cheap agent which is driving him in the material existence. So basically, mind, intelligence, and ego play the role to move because those are the only three things which travel after that death. Because the five elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether remains here. What moves with the soul is mind, intelligence, ego. And if you take care of these three, then that's called the knowledge. And with that knowledge, we come into Krishna consciousness, continuously in the Krishna consciousness, having all the devotional service as per the four regulative principles. If we go as per, because we are supposed to be called Rupa Anugas, because we are the Anugamis or the followers of Rupa Goswami. So in that path, in fact, in our parampara, if you go, then all this slowly will have a control on mind, intelligence, ego, and we can cross them. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, that is sattva, his activities are good. Like what? Like we taken the example of the philosopher, the poets, the scientists, or the ones who are doing good karmas. Krishna consciousness people are not supposed to be sattva. If they are pure coming to the sattva, then they actually move to suddha sattva. Because sattva will also give some good result. So his activities are good when the mind is in the mode of passion, that is raja, that is more and more endeavor, his activities are troublesome. Why his activities are troublesome? Because there will be always some some pain, some gain, then some pain, no gain. So this kind of cycle will go on. Some pain, some gain, some pain, no gain, again some pain, some gain, again no gain. So, because of this cyclicity of the activities, it is troublesome. There will be frustration. There will be, so many agony and so on and so forth. And thereby, but then they keep on coming to the earth, earthly planet. And when the mind is the mode of ignorance, it travels to the lower species of life or even the animal kingdom. The conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and senses, and when he is liberated, his material covering perishes. But his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity by the grace of Lord. The revived spiritual body can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Just imagine the revived spiritual body. So when this body perishes and we get our spiritual body, because we are spiritual beings in the material world. We are not material beings trying to be spiritual. We are not material beings trying to be spiritual by attending Gita classes. It is not that we are material being and we're trying to be spiritual. We are spiritual beings. Already we are spiritual beings, but somehow identified with the material nature, and we have to cross this ocean. We have to cut it down through through the Asanga Sastrena. So therefore, just imagine that revived spiritual body can see the Supreme Personality face to face. Imagine the Shyama Sundar Rupa you are looking at face to face when you go to Kalkuthama. And what is his description? Kandarpa, kan, kan, Kandar, Kandarpa Koti, Manohara Rupa. So he's like thousands and kotis crore. So crore of cupids, crore of Kandarpa. What the beauty, you can enhance the beauty to the infinity and see that what beautiful his face is. So whatever with with our senses, if there are some kind of desire still left out to see good things, beautiful things, then it will all go. Everything will just vanish. From Smriti also it is understood Vasanti yatra purushaha sarve vaikuntaha murtayaha. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have seen the Ajamila case. I mean, the beautiful, when he remembered his son by chance, he was named Vishnu. He was calling Vishnu very, very frantically because the Yamadutas were around. He didn't mean, in fact, Vishnu, but then that's the power of the name because there is no difference. There is no difference between the name, fame, quality, and pastime of Krishna. Therefore, when the Yamadutas came, the Vishnu Dutas drove them out. And he was boarding the beautiful plane with the four-handed form of Vishnu. So everyone who goes to Vrindavana, in fact, after that, he gets the body of as like as Vishnu, same four-handed form. So you will have, multiple. It's so difficult to, uh, how do you distinguish between, let's say, there are five Vishnus there. So how do you distinguish who is who? Okay, that's a quiz question. We'll come to that. As far as body constitution is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansion of Vishnu Murti. The words Mave Vanshaha, Mama Eva Amshaha. So fragmental parts and parcels of Supreme Lord are also very significant. Why? Because the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not the some material broken part. The spirit cannot be cut into pieces. So this is where the whole concept comes. Spirit, because in chapter 2 we have learned this, that it is adayam, it is it cannot be cut, it cannot be burnt, right? It cannot be you know wet with water. So so the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. The spirit cannot be cut into pieces. The fragmental portion is eternal. Each and every individual body possesses the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Dehinosmin jatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namihati. So the concept is to be understood as per the parampara is that we are eternally part and parcel of Krishna, Sanatanaha. So there is no question of getting cut to become the fragmental part. Our material sense, our material mind, our material intelligence thinks or can think or can perceive that if there is a part, then there should be a hole, and the part can come out only by cutting the hole. So it is not like that. What what is Krishna is saying, that we are the permanent part and parcels of Krishna. Because dehinosmin dehe kaumaramrita tatha dehantar prapti dhira satranam mohyati. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. So you can also go to the sun planet. So our body is what? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So with these five elements, we cannot go in any planet other than Earth. And when you leave the body, all these five elements, therefore they say Panchabhuta. So this all Panchabhuta remains in the Earth. If we want to go to sun planet, let's say, if we want to go to moon planet, if you want to go to Mars, if you want to go to any star, any of the planet, if you want to go, then we need to have that kind of a body. For example, if you want to go to sun, then we should have a body of a fire element. If you have, and it can have, because soul can have any kind of body. It can have a fire body, it can have a earth body, it can have a five element body, it can have any kind of body. And it can go anywhere. So it is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the part and person of God as the gold. I like it's an example is, gold are also gold. Like for example, uh, if you have a bracelet, or a big you know let's say some kind of jewelry you have, where whether you take a minute part of the gold, I mean the atomic part of the gold versus the whole chain of gold, the quality remains same, right? The gold is the gold. So there, that's the definition of Jivatma. It is, however, understood, right? So that we covered. So this is now important. Let us understand this. What is identity of living entity? So first identity is that is the original position is living entities are eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So first is they are part and parcel. What is the second? Second is living entities belong to the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. So we are not from this. It is like Prabhupada gives a very good example. We are like fish out of the pond. So this is not our natural habitat. So if the natural habitat of a fish is the water. If you take out the fish out of the water, then that's not the natural habitat. So this earthly planet, or any of the planets, in the sense that in the any of the lokas that we have, those are not our natural habitat. This the spiritual being's natural habitat is Golaka Vrindavana. This so therefore we must go there. So current position, they are now struggling hard with mind and senses in the material world. So mind and senses. Mind and senses. And that is the reason why so many thousands and millions of these life coaches have, sprouted across the world, because people are having problems with the mind. People are having problems with the senses. For the senses, I think no one other than the no one has done best. Let's say other than the entire entertainment industry, they've understood Gita, I think, better than us. Sometimes I think, because they've understood what are the weak points of human being, and they are encashing on those weak points, because they know that these senses are people are identified with the senses, so they will have all those things, so that one is continuously preoccupied with all that. And if you remember the two birds on a branch, the first bird is the witness, Paramatma. Second bird is the soul. And Paramatma is waiting that when it will turn its head. And it is not happening, because all the five senses are used. You have taken a decision today, for example, not to watch in the mobile something, not to surf net, not to watch Netflix, not to go to a movie. If you have taken the decision, that is called the decision of independence. That is called the decision of trying to be Krishna conscious, and that is a point towards liberation. So 15.8, Sariram yad avapnoti yachapi utkramas utkramatiswaraha Ritvanti samyati vayurgandham eva asayat. The living entity is the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to the another as their air carries aromas. This we have all experienced. So if when the air comes from a beautiful garden, what it carries? What it carries? The fragrance, the beautiful fragrance. It is coming from a beautiful garden, so it is carrying the beautiful fragrance. Does it mean that air has the fragrance in it? Is fragrance is the constituent of air? No, it is just carrying because it is passing through that. Similarly, the same air, when it's passing through the garbage area, then it will again come with the foul smell. But it doesn't mean that foul smell is the originality of the air. It is not the constituent of the air. It's just carrying it. Similarly, soul is also carrying different kind of bodies, different kind of mind, uh, mind and intelligence and ego. All this is carrying, just like the air carries the fragrance. So here, the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body, and and if he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to lower class. Minute independence is already given to everyone. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. So whether he or she becomes a Brahma or an Indra or a Rishi in the or a Siddha in the Siddha Loka or a devotional servant, all depends on the minute independence that we have, and the change his body undergoes, depends upon him altogether. And at the time of death, so these are the Bharata Muni's example we have taken. At the time of death, he was thinking about the deer and he became deer. Although he had done so much of penances, so much of you know meditation and all the things that was required, he was quite. I mean, he was the best. But just last thought. So we had two extremes. One extreme was Bharata Maharaj, whose life was he left his kingdom and he was having all this and austere life. And just the last thought, because of that, you know, cute deer, he was only thinking about that at the time of death, and he got the body of the deer the next life. And just the opposite was the case of Ajamila. He was absolutely wretched altogether. I mean, nothing Brahminical qualities he had, although he was born in the, you know, Kula of Brahmana, but still, but finally, because he uttered the name of Vishnu, he got it. Right. So this is how we get the body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, he's sure to change to a cat's or a dog's body. Cat and dog's body. If he has fixed the consciousness on godly qualities, he will change in the form of a god, of course. And if he is Krishna conscious, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are background of his next body. So let us understand one thing, that the next body that we are going to get after death, it is not it is not that after death happens and after that the next body is getting created, it is taking time. Not like that. the ne- while we are in this body, while we're transmigrating, before transmigration, before leaving the body, the next body is already decided. The next body is already decided. It is like, if you want to, if you're in a rented house, naturally, if leave the rented house, you will always want to arrange another rented house, and go into a good agreement before leaving this house. Similarly, your next body is also ready, based on the karmas, based on the uh, various levels of prarabdha, aprarabdha, etc. Depending on that, your and the karma and desire, all things together. Desire at the last moment, your karmas, your prarabdha, all together decide the next body. Now, one gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit his body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body. And what is the composition of the subtle body? What is the composition of the subtle body? Anyone? Hare Krishna? Hare Krishna. What is the composition of the subtle body? Mind, intelligence, and ego. So this process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati. So karshati is really, really too difficult. Therefore, everybody so much exhausted with the endeavor. You won't find the from the labor class to the highest of who in the material world, whoever may be the highest in terms of wealth, etc., etc. Everybody will say that yes, it is too much now. So it is karshati. There's a struggle for existence. However, some of the management theories will say that struggle is good. One should aspire more, but how long? Because if you aspire more and more and more, the endeavor will go on. There is no limit to the endeavor. And if he's in okay, so this is the different types of. Let us look at the different types of migration, transmigration. What is the living entity acquires a material mind and carries different conception of life from one body to the next. Then analogy as the air carries the aroma. So we have understood this. And श्रोत्रम चक्षुस्पर्शनम च रसनम ग्रहणम एव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयान उपसेवते. So stotram chakshu. Shotram is the instrument, or the capability which is given to hear. So it can be an ear, or in whichever way, maybe some entities who may not have ear, but they can perceive certain sounds through their skin. So stotram need not be Srotram need not be just the ear by definition, but some ability to hear, whichever has been given to that particular body. Chakshuhu, that is to see. Sparsham is a touch. Rashanam is the smell. I mean, sorry, the jiva. And then grinam, that is the smell. Adhishtaya manasa chayam vishayanupasevata. This is the five senses. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue, and nose and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. It thus enjoys a particular set of sense of objects. Because if someone wants to, or if someone desires to, enjoy a particular type of enjoyment. Let's say somebody wants that I want to fly. I want to enjoy flying. Now he cannot be provided with a plane continuously, because plane has to come back, and then he has to do other jobs. So sometimes he may be given, but he wants to permanently, have a kind of a wing. So fine, then he should be given a body which should sustain this kind of desire, and that's the body of the bird. Similarly, somebody wants to dive too much, uh, enjoys that. So he should have a body of a fish or frog or whatever, some aquatic animal. So those things. So these are the five, senses. So Ghranam, nose, Rasanam, tongue, Sparsham, sense of touch, Chakshu is eye, and Srotam is ear, and Adhisthaya Manasa is situated in the mind. So the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch grouped about the mind. So whatever mind, this mind, in a part of the mind, subtle body, part of the subtle body is mind. Other two parts are intelligence and ego. Whatever the mind has, the desire, based on that, it gets the next body. If the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of the cats and dogs, in his next life, he gets a cat or dog body. No doubt on that. Then consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. In this state, one is in his pure life. When adulterated, he does not necessarily get a human body. Again, he can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, whatever. If there is indiscrimination of food eating, then of course one can get a body of a hog or a pig, because pig cannot understand what is stool and what is good food. So all this can happen, and thereby we can understand. So this is the beautiful understanding and analogy that why 84 lakhs of species are there, because human desire is so varied that one particular, you know body will not suit the desire. So therefore 84 lakhs of species God or Krishna has to create to suit some of the desire. So people are desiring in such varied way. 15.10, Utkramanam Sthitam Vapi Punjanamba Gunanvitam Bhimudah Nanu Pashyanti Jnana Chakshushaha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Trained in knowledge. Knowledge is to be in Krishna consciousness, because Vedai Sarvecha Ahameva Vidya. He can only see, because this is the best example. You are having a car and there is some problem, then you can find anyone. Like, you can, if you have a friend, a doctor friend, or some other friend, a poet or a philosopher, a scientist, they may not be able to do the repair, but a mechanic will come and just find out the problem of the problem, immediately fixes it, and the car starts. So that's how the knowledge is that training of the knowledge is that by one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. And what he can see? He can see that we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are the spirit soul. So the word jnana chakshu is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of the body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. Because one may be a cat or a dog or a hog, but he will not be understand. He cannot understand that why he has become like this, because he's just kind of triggered with the instincts and behaving like that. Unless otherwise, the case of Bharata Muni, who remembers even after having the body of the deer, he can still remember the previous birth, because he's having the Jnana Chakshu. Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body, like Dehinasmin Jatha Dehe Komaram Yavananjara Tatha Dehantar Prapti Dhira Satra Namayuti, and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in the material existence. Janma Mritu Jara Vyadhi. People need this knowledge, as their conditioned life is very much troublesome. They should become Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. So Krishna says, is waiting in Goloka Vrindavana, that when you come to the fold of devotional service, you should not wait. Once you have come to the Krishna consciousness, then there are a lot of things to be done. Every day we should chant at least one mala at the level 2, 16 rounds at the level 5. This is one part, this small part. But in the Navaveda Bhakti, there are so many things to be done. So chanting gives our Sarvanam and Kirtanam, at the same time. Then deity worship is there. Then Bhagavatam, listening to the Bhagavatam. Then Seva to the Guru. So many things are to be done to, and which is so easy because we have we have also heard, read this. Like it is susukham. It is so pleasing, in fact. Rajavidya Rajaguham Pavitram Idam Uttamam. Rajavidya Rajaguham Pavitram Idam Uttamam. And it is susukham also. Others may be very, very difficult, like austerities and all. But the devotional service, we can do it easily. We can chant it anywhere. And also it gives a lot of pleasure. It is very pleasing, so to say. यतन्तो यगिनास् चैनां पश्यन्ति आत्मनि अवस्थितां यतन्तोऽपि अकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्ति अचेतसः. Endeavoring transcendentalist who is situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those who are not situated in the self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So Sri Chaitanya, we can see Sri Chaitanya Deva here. He is having, in fact, when he uh, went to Puri, then his symptoms, he was you know, shivering and then got senseless, and all this happened. And very few people who are trained in the Shastra, they could only understand the symptoms of a pure devotee. And in fact, it is something like, your manual, like the manual of a motorbike or a manual of a car. There are also manuals which is in our parampara. The Gita is also is a manual where the symptoms are listed. These are the symptoms of pure devotee. And Sri Chaitanya was the pure devotee. He's Krishna, in fact. So what happens? What the results happens? Those not trained in the knowledge. And what happens to the, what 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 happens if somebody becomes ignorant? What is the cure for this ignorance? Krishna says knowledge. And how to get this knowledge? By devotional service. Those who are trained can see all the clearly because their minds are clarified by yoga practice and thus situated in the self-realization. And what is the best yoga? We have dhyana yoga, we have jnana yoga, we have karma yoga, and we also have bhakti yoga. And Krishna says bhakti yoga is the best. Why? Because it is the easiest. But those whose minds are, and also it is best in the Kali Yuga. Because Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranta. Harir Nama, Harir Nama Kevalam. Kalau Nastebhyo, Nastebhyo, Nasteva Gatirannatha. So Bhakti yogis are the actual yogis. Have realized self, world, and Supreme Lord, can see things as they are. Can see things as they are. That's the quality of the Bhakta. Then यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भाषते अखिलम् यच्चन्द्रमासि यच्चग्नौ तत्तेज विद्धि मामकम्. The splendor of the sun which dissipates the darkness of this whole world comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So Krishna is saying that, in fact, he says that the splendor of the sun, for which the you know, entire creation is holding itself, and the moon for which the entire vegetation is holding itself, that is coming from him. And he is our digestive fire. Just think that our food cannot be digested without Krishna. So when you say a leaf cannot move, patta nahi hilega Krishna ka bina. If we are saying a leaf cannot move without Krishna, if you are saying that means, in fact, yes, because he is the digestive fire. If it is not digested, everybody will die. If there is no moon, entire vegetation will not be there. If there is no sun, in any case, everything will go in few days. And what is the benefit of such a conception of life as given in this verse? The sun, the moon, electricity, fires, nothing is required in his Dhamma. That is the supreme, the yoga of the supreme person. So it is important to understand that the splendor of the sun, moon, electricity, or fire comes from the Lord. This is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. So whenever we see sun outside in a day, whenever we see moon in a moonlit night, and electricity or fire, I mean, without fire, the civilization cannot start. But once we understand that all this is coming from Krishna, this is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. In such a conception, the conditioned soul is considered as advancing in knowledge in this material world, as the living entities are essentially parts and parcels, or evam mame vansho jivaloke. Supreme Lord, they are herein hinted by the Lord how to go home back to Godhead. Prabhupada had this beautiful magazine called Back to Godhead, which was so famous in US when he started. In fact, it was one of the best books. The sun illuminates the entire solar system. The different universes existing have a different solar system with different suns, moons, and planets. Each universe has its own sun or one sun. Bhagavad Gita 10.21, the moon is one of the stars. What he's saying in the 10:10 is the chapter 10 is what yoga? Vibhuti yoga. And in Vibhuti yoga, what he say? Nakshitranam aham sasi. He say that amongst the planets, amongst the stars, nakshitra are the stars, and Jyotishanam aham anshur jyot. So, yes, one is nakshitranam, that is amongst the stars, and one is amongst the planets. So sunlight is due to spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rising of the sun, the activities of human beings start. Fire is set to prepare their foodstuff, start factories, etc. We have blast furnace, for example, in the steel, you know, without fire, nothing can happen. No, in fact, no iron. The so-called iron civilization that we talk about cannot happen without fire. In fact, no digestion can happen without fire. So sunrise, fire, moonlight are so pleasing to be the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. Moonshine nourishes all the vegetables. Sometimes we think that, without sun, we can live. So we cannot live. Everybody will die. But sometimes we think that without moon, moon is just, good thing. Having a moonlit light may be good for the poets, but may not be required. No, it is required. The entire vegetation will die. It is scientifically proven. गमाभिश्च च भूतानि धारयामि अहम ओजसा उष्णामि चौषधीः सर्वः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः. I enter into each planet and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Sutra Manigana Eba. He is the Sutra Manigana Eba. He is a thread. If he's an invisible thread in a necklace, if you see the necklace, the thread which holds the necklace is not seen. So Krishna is a necklace, I mean the thread. I enter each planet. So he's saying I enter each planet and my energies, they stay in orbit. So we are saying that, the solar system, because of the gravitational force, the planets are holding in their track. But our Shastra is saying that that may be at a particular reference level, you are saying, but ultimately that is all coming from Krishna. Because he's saying, I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. So we cannot say that Earth is staying in its orbit because of just the gravitational force of the sun. That is all happening because of Krishna being there and become moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Without vegetables, what will happen? That is a grace. All the planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord. The Lord enters into each planet. That is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. So, due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water. When the living spark is out of the body is dead. It sinks. Of course, on decomposing, it floats, but as soon as the man is dead, he at once sinks in water. Similarly, all planets float in space due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the supreme. His energy is sustaining each planet, just like handful of dust or soil. If you hold some dust, as long as you are holding it, it will stay. The moment you just, you know, put your hand stretched, then it will just fall off. But now the Vishwanara concept is coming. Aham Vishwanara Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachami Annam Chaturvidham. So there are Chaturvidham Anna. In our digestive system, there are four types of thing. What are the four types? Something you chew, something, chob, chobyam, chashyam, lehyam, something you lick. So all the four types of, food that we are taking, everything is to be digested in the digestive system, and by which I digest the four kinds of food stuff. So Krishna digests. He's there in our digestive system, and he is also the all our uh, the prana vayus, different kind of air that we have, like the prana, samana, apana, all this which are required for sustaining the life. Something is which are inhaling and exhaling one kind of air. Then some air is required for, you know, the blood circulation. Some air is required for excretion. So all these different kind of airs which are required, that is coming from him, not coming from me. He's saying, I am that. I am the fire of digestion. I am the air of the life. I am the outgoing and incoming breath. I am the four kinds of. I am the digestive fire which digests the four kinds of food stuff. This is the most important and very beautiful one, and in a different meter also. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivisto matta smritirjnanapohanam cha vedaisya sarvaihi ahameva vedyah vedanta kritveda videva chaham sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivisto. I am seating in everybody's heart. As what? As Paramatma. And matta smritir jnanam apohanam cham. And from me, three things are there: remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. These things comes from me. So if somebody is highly knowledgeable, then also it is because Krishna is there as the knowledge. If somebody remembers the ones you see, very heightened level of memories, it's not he, it is Krishna. And if somebody is forgetting also, that's also Krishna. In fact, it is required also. If we remember our past lives, in fact, one life we cannot handle with so much of, uh, you know, different friends, the different foes, different situations of life, and all the situations become agony. All this we cannot handle in our life. What happens if the entire remembrance comes from the past lives? So, and he's also saying, Vedai Sarvesh Aham Vidya. So, in the four Vedas, Rug, Jaju, Sham, and Atharva, who is to be known? There is something to be known through the Vedas, and Krishna is the knowable. He is the knowledge. So he is the Kshetrajna. So the soul is a Kshetrajna, and the super soul is also Kshetrajna. And he is the compiler of the Vedanta, and he is also knower of the Vedas. We can see here, we can see in everybody's heart, Krishna is there in the four-handed form. On the right hand side, if you, in the picture, if you see, and they're doing beautiful prasadam for Lord. So Krishna is there. But one question comes, that what happens in a heart transplant? So one in the heart transplant, heart is taken out. So where does the soul stay at that point of time? Because sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivisto. So where does it then? Because the patient doesn't die. The heart is taken out and the pumping of blood is done outside. I mean, till the new heart is implanted. At that point of time, when heart is not there and the new heart is coming, in that moment where the soul stays, we have different chakras from Muladhara to Sahasrara. So in the heart chakra, if it is not there, then it goes to the next chakra. And again, when the new heart comes, then it again comes back. It is like I'm sitting on a chair now and just, we are talking. So suppose the chair, one leg is, damaged, then I just move to the bed for some time. And when the chair is repaired, I again come back. It's the same example. Thus, the Lord is not only all pervading, He's also localized in every individual heart. All activities are initiated from Him. The living entity forgets everything of his past life. He has to act according to the direction of Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Upadashta Anumanta cha Upadrashta is the witness. Upadashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhukta Maheshwara. Upadashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhakta Bhukta Maheshwara. Paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushaha paraha. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Lord Krishna graces him with the required knowledge and memory, as it does not remember anything about his past life. He is worshipable as the impersonal Brahman, the supreme personality of Godhead, localized Paramatma. The Vedas give the right direction to the people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to the Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of supreme personal Godhead. Therefore, we say that Vedic service Ahame Vedya. Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva has compiled the Vedas, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra and Antah Pravishta Sastra Jnanam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again instead of the Supreme Lord. Okay, let's go to the next one. Dvabhimau purusau loke sharah sarvani. Dvabhimau purusau loke shara chakshara evacha kshara sarvani bhutani kutastha akshara uchyate. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. We have already discussed this, that he is called Achyuta because he is fallible. He doesn't fall from his position. It is not literal falling, but it is basically doesn't fall from the position of the Supreme Personal Godhead. He remains as Paramatma all the time. He remains in the Golaka. It doesn't move from there, but he is also all pervading. He never falls from his place. He becomes a chariot driver. He remains as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He becomes a friend of any of the Gopas. He becomes the husband of the, uh, his queens. He becomes many things, but he never falls from his place. And the entire existence is primarily about Ksharas and Aksharas. Are called fallible and Aksharas called infallible. So this is the Sarvasachaham Hrudi Sannivisto Matta Sruti Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedaisha Sarvai Aham Vivedya Vedanta Kritveda Videvachaham. 16 to 20 Purushottama Yoga, the three shloka Bhagavad Gita summarizing the Vedas of Vedanta kinds of living entities. This is a summary. According to the Vedanta Sutra compiled with the Lord's incarnation in Vyasadeva, the immeasurable entities can be divided like this. Living entities are eternally separated parts and personnel of Supreme Lord. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta. Then Shara Sarvani Bhutani means they are all fallible, and those in oneness with the Supreme Personal Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They all agree that the Supreme Personal Godhead, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, is the source of all emanations. The conditioned living entities who are struggling in this world with the mind and five senses have their material bodies which are changing. In the spiritual world, the body is not made of matter. Therefore, there is no change because the moment it is matter, it will change. In the material world, the living it will change means it will die. And in the material world, the living entity undergoes six changes in its material body. And what are the changes? We know very well. First is birth, second is growth, and third is duration. It stays there for some time. Then there is a reproduction happens, so new generation come. Then then it starts to dwindle. The old age comes, and then finally death comes, so it vanishes. So all these changes happen. So that therefore it is called kshara. However, nothing happens to the soul originally, so therefore that is called akshara. In the spiritual world, the body does not change. There is no old age, no birth, no death. They are all exist in oneness. Just think about there is no birth, death, old age, and disease in the spiritual world. So why you were struggling here? Why? Shara Sarvani Bhutani, any living entity who has come in contact with matter, beginning from the first created being Brahma down to the small ant, is changing its body. Thereby, they are all fallible in the spiritual world. However, they are always liberated in oneness. So our aim is to go to Golaka Vrindavana. Uttamaha Purusasto Anyaha Paramatmeti Uddhartaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibharti Abhyaya Ishwaraha. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality. Besides these two means what? Besides this Kshara and Akshara, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is called infallible. That we understood. And 17, beside these two, there is also greatest living personality, the Lord Himself, who has entered into these worlds and is maintaining them. Fifteen point one. Yasmaksharam atitoham aksharatapi chottamaha atosmi loke vede cha pratitaha purushottamaha. Because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in world and in Vedas as the supreme person. You can see that this is the Leela, the Brahma Leela, you can say, where Brahma has hidden all the cows, all the gopas, and Krishna created all his expansions into the gopas. So for 1 year nobody could know actually. So then in the Bhagavatam, then we see the beautiful prayer of Brahma. And that story of Garuda. Although the living entities and the Supreme Lord are both individuals, the living entity is either in the condition. So the living entity is either in the conditioned state or in the limited state, cannot surpass in quantity his inconceivable potencies because it is due to his energy. It is incorrect to think of Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. This is coming repetitively because this has to cement, this has to be, this is where the first step of Krishna consciousness works. The moment we accept that we are the part and parcel of Krishna, we are the permanent servitor of Krishna, and our only aim is to go to Golaka, and our only aim is to go back to the Godhead. Without this knowledge, and this is knowledge, there is so always what is jnana? The jnana is to know Krishna. There is always question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. He is therefore the greatest of the personalities. Now we come to the last three slokis. This is the summary of. So 16 is there are two kinds of living entities, fallible and infallible. Then 16.17 is Supreme Soul is the master of both, his greatest personality, and he enters the three worlds and then maintains them. And then 15.18, Krishna, I am that Supreme Soul in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. This is the summary. Here we can see that everyone is meditating upon Krishna. In fact, no one. We can see here. We can see Brahma. We can see Shivji. We can see all the devatas, maybe some rishis. But no one can. In fact, they are all at the bank of the Kshirasagara. They cannot even enter into the milk ocean, and only they can when Krishna wants, when he is pleased with the prayer. So there, in fact, uh, they all come here and pray Vishnu Sahasranam. And after that, if he pleases, then only someone can meet him. Here also we can see all the, uh, he is the supreme controller, and he is the worship by all the devatas, we can see here. And here Shivji also talking about, Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tutulam Rama Nama Varanane. He is also meditating upon Krishna. Yo mam evam asamudha janati purushottamam sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is to be understood as the knower of everything. And he therefore engages himself in the devotional service, O son of Bharata. Because this question comes all the time, that how to become knowledgeable and how to engage ourselves in on constant devotional service. So here Krishna gives the formula saying that whoever knows me as the supreme personal Godhead, first of all, we have to accept him as supreme personality of Godhead. Nobody is above him, nobody is equal to him. And next is without doubting. Yumam evam asammudha janati purushottamam. Asammudha, without any doubt, he knows Janati mean as the supreme personality of Godhead, Purushottama. Sa sarvavid vajatema, sarva bhavena bharata. He understood as the knower of everything, and he therefore engages in the full devotional service. Because unless we know him, what he is, how we develop our devotional service. We can see we can see Lord Shiva here meditating upon Krishna, and all others are also, and he's also, all others are also talking about him. Lord clearly explains one who truly knows him is the actual knower of everything. Such a person, devotee without wasting any time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, should receive the Vedic knowledge called Shruti directly from Krishna. His representatives should submissively accept the living entities are always subordinate to the Lord. And this is the last verse. Iti guiham, iti guiha tamam, iti guiham tamam sastram, idam uktam Mayanaga etat buddhya buddhiman syat kritascha bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. We had Raja Vidya Raja Guham. So we have the confidential, then more confidential, and the most confidential. So this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, or sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, or sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So we can say that devotional service is the process of spiritual understanding, frees one from all contaminations of the modes of material nature, makes one intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. Devotional service and material contamination cannot coexist. That means either you surrender to Krishna or surrender to Maya. Lord is said to be the sun, and ignorance is called the darkness. There is the sun. Where the sun is present, darkness, of course, will go. Where is the question of darkness? In the presence of devotional service, under the proper guidance of bona fide spiritual master, there can be no ignorance. So this is a summary, And there's a summary of this chapter section of the. So we have 20 verses, but it's a Purushottama Yoga. So therefore, we took, you know, time for this because it is the most confidential knowledge. So 1 to 5, how to become detached from material world, the reflection of the spiritual world, the spiritual tadhamam paramam mama. It is self illuminated. Then 6 to 11, Purushottama Yoga, the transmigration. How does it take place? How the air carries, like the air carries fragrance. In the same way, the soul carries the different kinds of desire in the mind and intelligence. Then 12 to 15, Krishna's position as the maintainer. So Voktaram Yagatapasam also there, Sarvaloka Maheswaram, he is the maintainer of everything. Then 16 to 20, it is the this part also has the summary of the section, and the three sloka particularly that summarizes the Vedas and the Vedanta kinds of the living entities. So this ends the chapter 15. Hare Krishna. I stop here. Hare Krishna. And then we move. Hare Krishna. I have to live stream.